I go up the steps. As I go up the steps, the cops are closing the gates behind me. I was the last guy on the flight of steps, at least that I saw, right? I'm like, okay, that's weird, whatever. They probably didn't want more people to go to the back.
Welcome to the pod.
So basically, I'll tell you what I saw
So you
and
were
what
there.
happened. So basically, I go to Meron every year for like Bomer. And I went there this year myself. I was like planning to just go, do a little, I'm going to pray a little bit, Ma'ariv, say, the 33rd night, bracha there by Rashbi. I'm going to dance for 5 minutes. I wasn't feeling so well. I was hot, whatever. I'm going to go home. So I was davening. I did Tikkun Klali, and I was davening, Hispoidus, whatever, right by those steps. There's those white walls you see in the video, the white metal aluminum walls. I was leaning against one of those walls.
Downstairs?
Yeah, down. I was like 5 feet from the stairs. Like I'm sitting here. The stairs are like right there. I said I'm gonna daven. I'm gonna walk up the stairs, go to the ramp, and I'm gonna go see the fire, and then I'm gonna go home. So I'm davening there. I go up the steps. As I go up the steps, the cops are closing the gates behind me. I was the last guy on the flight of steps, at least that I saw, right? I'm like, okay, that's weird. Whatever. They probably didn't want more people to go to the back because they were talking about in the news how they want to limit the sections to a certain amount of people. Okay, so I go up the ramp. I already noticed the ramp is slippery. Whatever, I go up the ramp to the back. The second I got into this dance floor on wherever in the back over there, I noticed that something was extremely wrong because I go to that area every year. And the second I got on there, I was already trapped. It was no me getting out. I was trapped. Like once I got in, like 10, 15 people, I could not go back out. Everybody was pushing. I mean, not even really pushing. There was just too many people back there. My shirt was being ripped off of me. My people were trying to walk by me. Imagine your beard gets pulled in between two big fat Chassidim, and they're walking that way, and your beard's being pulled that way, and your payas are being pulled that way. Wow. And I'm like, okay, this is not cool, right? Like this is really not like a schmuck, right? So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Like I'll deal with it for 15 minutes. But then it started getting worse. And then, like, you can't really breathe. Like, the air is just getting hot.
Why do you think that was? Because you're doing all these years.
So there's two main reasons. Number one is that the Rebbe usually lights the fire at the end of Lag Bomer. So everybody piled in, all of his Chassidim plus everyone else who wants to see the fire piled into that area. So that was already the amount of people were like doubled. And also because since it was Moisei Shabbos, since it was going to Shabbos, Lag Bomer, so everybody came Thursday night. So there was just this. There was just an insane amount of people there. So I was watching this whole scene go down, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, like, I don't want to die right now. So I'm like trying to like move myself away from the crowd, which was not existent. But like, there's steps at the back of the Rashbi, like where they sell souvenirs or whatever during there. So I was trying to get to those steps, even though they were full of girls, right? I was 10 feet away. I was trying to just like push myself back, like under Chassidim, whatever. I got to the steps. But then once I got to the steps, like people were leaning on me because they were being pushed from the top because the cops were up there. They didn't want them to go further because there was girls. So the whole thing was a balagan. And I think the cops could have done a better job at least of just the little crowd control of that situation. But I was already seeing that something was going to not end good over here. Like if somebody would have made one bad move, like where we were, like people could have really died there. So I was like whispering under my breath, I was like, Rebbe, you got to light this fire already. They were doing major hachanas, like they say Tehillim, and they sing Kol Echseif, and they do this, and whatever, and it's beautiful, but like when you're dying in the crowd, it's not so beautiful, right? Yeah. So I was like, Rebbe, you have to light this fire, because once he lights the fire, everybody starts dancing to Bar Yochai, and like it opens up into, you can move. So I bumped into these, I was with these American yeshiva guys that I met in the crowd. They were also freaking out. I was like, guys, don't worry. Once the Rebbe starts, once he lights the fire, we'll be able to move. Fine. So the Rebbe lit the fire. I danced for about 5 minutes. I could barely like move because I took my shirt off because it was already ripped. I looked crazy. I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to go back now down this ramp the way I came. I was Yotzi. I danced for 5 minutes at Rashbi. I'm going to go home now. I'm going to go back to the buses. I'm tired. I'm going to have a lot of guests for Shabbos. Fine. This is like 12:45, 12:50. I start walking towards the ramp, and this random Chassidish guy came to me, and he said, don't go there. Turn around right now and go out the other way. It's too many people there.
There was another exit?
So the other exit is through 10,000 people dancing.
All the way to the other side of the...
Exactly. There's supposed to be 4 exits out of there,
Mm-hmm.
One of them is officially up the steps where the women are. That's not an exit.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other exit. So there's 2 exits, one on the ramp and one on the far end of this dance floor, which you have to fight through 10,000 people. So I'm with these 4 American yeshiva guys. They're like, we got to get out of here. I'm like, I know. So that's what happens, that everybody was experiencing the same thing that I was experiencing, that it was too much. People talk about this in the interviews. So they were all want to go down to the ramp. So they all went down this ramp. And unfortunately, we all know what happened. They all went. Yeah, I had crazy hashgacha that this random Chassidish guy told me. Like every single second that everybody did there was like timed by Shemayim.
Wow.
Like every single step was timed by Shemayim. Like it's not.
Because if you 1 second you were in a different place, you wouldn't have met this guy.
I asked the guy for a tissue. It could be like I'm saying, if I didn't ask the guy for a tissue, he could have been there. I'm saying like nobody knows who was there. I'm saying like everybody was just like, it could have been any 45 people, because I mean the decree was for those 45. But I'm saying it really could have been any 45 people, because anybody could have just walked down there and be before them. So I took these 4 guys with me, and we fought our way through this whole crowd. Yeah. And at the end of it, it goes up like this big hill. So I went up the hill, and as we were going up the hill, I started seeing like a lot of Hatzalah guys. Like there was Hatzalah guys going the whole night. People were fainting in the crowd, fine, whatever. This was like, they usually have 4 or 5 guys at a time. This was like 50 guys carrying stretchers. I was like, what's happening right now? But I didn't know, because I was like tripping out. I just wanted to get out of Meron. I was tired. I was knocked out from being pushed around. So I get up there. I walk all the way through the women's section. That's the whole point of this ramp, is that you can go on the left side of the Tzion, and you don't have to walk through the bleachers where the women are. Even though you're not walking through them, and they just don't want people to see the women, whatever. Kitzer, I come out to the front of the Tzion. And as we come out to the front of the Tzion, my service comes back on my phone. I get alert. Something happened in Rashbi. Something fell, and there's a lot of people injured. And I look at the front of the Tzion. There's 3 ambulances there, and fire truck. And then they announce on loudspeakers, everybody evacuate the mountain now. The music shuts off. Everybody starts going down the mountain, which is already a disaster, because you have ambulances coming up the mountain to try to get to the injured.
And the people come down.
So they couldn't go any further. So they would just carry the stretchers out, run, get the guy, get the injured people, and then run down the mountain. So I saw like 7, 8 stretchers pass by me with bodies on them. And I saw there was just women, like seminary girls and women and Haredi women, like crying against the wall, like from the sight of like these bodies. It was an extremely intense situation. And like, whatever, like, and I remember seeing one of the craziest things I ever saw in my life was that I saw 5 paramedics pushing a guy on a stretcher, and there was one paramedic on top of the guy. I don't know how he was doing it. How does he do it? How he like
while they're carrying it?
No, they were rolling him down the hill.
Oh, okay.
And there was one paramedic, like he was hanging onto the side of the stretcher, or he was on top of him with his knees on top of the guy, knees on each side of the guy, so he wasn't touching him, but he was doing CPR. It was a crazy thing I was like. And then I get to the bottom of the mountain. People are calling. My wife is calling me, freaking out. Everybody's calling me. I'm speaking to friends who are on the way out from Jerusalem. Oh, we're calling for Nate. I was like, turn around now. Don't even come. And I see people at the bottom of the mountain just chilling, like dancing to trance. Nobody even knew what was happening over there. And all of a sudden, it was just like the whole thing was just crazy, man. So I was like really saved from that, thing. And I'm not blaming anybody. Like, there definitely was no stampede. There was nobody running. Nobody was trying to step on anybody. There was a crush. The way that whole ramp situation is set up on the left side of the Tzion of like, it looks like somebody built one section like 1 year, like 10 years ago, and it was like, okay, let's add on, and just like, okay, let's build like a little metal ramp this way and then another one this way, and it's like a whole, like, it could fall apart any second, so it doesn't look good. And it was and who puts a flight of steps at the end of a ramp when it's pitch black? There's no lights on that ramp, so everybody's walking down, and at the end they missed the first step, and that's it. So that's what happened. At least that's what I think has happened. And, it's just sad, man. Like 45 people. But like we mentioned before, we got to learn about 45 holy Jews who, are going to change our lives now. And we're going to hopefully do better. That's all I have to say.
45 tzaddikim.
45 tzaddikim, time to them.